interested in, and trying to inform you in ways that are a little bit more conversational. So many times that you see videos and whatnot, it's more of an interview, or it's something that is a lot more scientific than you'd like it to be. And so we're going to try and come to you and give you the opportunity to be able to ask questions. So in the comments below, and in any questions that you have along the way, just send them to us and we'll answer any questions that you have. We're looking forward to helping you out, both from a health coach's standpoint and from your physician, Dr. Aajay Shah, cardiologist and lifestyle physician here. You have a wonderful mind to pick, so we're going to move forward. Doctor, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I'm very excited today.
Good, good. Well, we got some fun topics to kind of talk about, but we're kind of looking forward to having this conversation and allowing people to see you for who you are. And so you're just coming off of a day break. I told our audience that you were taking a day to spend time with Jay Shah, and that's one of the 6 pillars of health. And that if you don't feed the horse of marriage, you do end up having a very hard time being able to have one. And so you were showing us exactly what one needs to do to make sure that you are paying attention to all 6 pillars of health. Many times people avoid or ignore it, or just forget about how important it is to spend time with your loved ones and what it does when you don't. So how did you enjoy your time with Jay Shah?
Yeah, I think I had a really good time, and I agree with you. I think relationship is probably as important as what we eat or exercise or sleep or anything, because now we have enough scientific proof that people who are lonely, actually they have a risk of heart attack as if they are a smoker. So smoking and loneliness has the same risk in terms of having heart attacks. So definitely loneliness is a major issue. And I think relationship, what better relationship than relationship with your spouse or with your life partner or person you live with. And I think because you are with that person probably 10 to 12 hours a day. And that's what I think building a relationship becomes such an important part of a healthy lifestyle. And I think I personally have a philosophy in my life, and you have a same philosophy, Mike, that I think in any relationship, it's always give and take. I think if you are just a taker all the time, then eventually relationship becomes a sour relationship, because I think there has to be gratitude to each other. There has to be giving to each other. Not that we have to count every time we give and take, but at the same time, if you have a philosophy of just give, then eventually your spouse or your partner will also start giving back. And that's how I think relationship gets deeper and deeper. And we've been married now 36 years. We have 2 wonderful kids. We have son who is 31 and married to a great person, and daughter who is 26 years old. So I think relationship, to be honest with you, Mike, we don't appreciate how much we get out of a healthy relationship with our spouse or with our life partner. Because many times when you are feeling down, many times when you want to go for a walk, many times when you want to have a healthy meal, when you do it with a buddy or when you do it with a friend, and if that person is your spouse or your life partner or your person you live with or your close friend, then I think it becomes so much easier than doing it yourself. I think humans are by nature social animals, and I think relationship cannot be under stress. I think it has to be as important, like I said earlier, as important as eating and sleeping and exercising. And I had a great time. We went out to Novi, which is an hour east of here from where we live, and we had some nice walk, and we talked. And I think we also like this 1 hour drive from our town, because in the car, particularly when I'm driving, Mike, I'm not on the phone. We are listening to some light music, but we are mostly talking. There is no TV in the room. So many times, and I think a lot of our family trips, some of the best time we had was in our long drives also. So I think, but I had a great time. So how was your yesterday?
Yesterday for me was a great time with Vanessa here. We spent some time together and had a chance to kind of just enjoy and spend some time together. Like you said, we get a chance to do that just about every weekend, at least a little bit here and there, making sure that we continue to stay in touch. And like you said, how important those relationships are. The person that you go to sleep with every night, we don't think about how intimate that is, but that's a gift, given to us by that other individual, and they're giving us that gift and we're giving it in return. And it has a huge impact on our waking hours.
Yeah, I think relationship also must include other family members, friends, community members, your work members or work co-workers. I mean, those things are very important because relationship has to be, in my opinion, extended to the every human being you meet. Even if you meet them one time, you have built a relationship. And I think you have to leave an impression to the person you meet, either at work or family, friends, community, your church, your temple, that you are always here with them as a close friend. And I think creating that kind of impression to your circle, to your community, becomes such an important thing, because I cannot stress enough of how much love and how much support I got 10 years ago when I was going through some health issue. And I think those things are, to be honest with you, those things are probably more important than even the medical care you get from your doctor. The support and the love you get from your spouse, from your friends, your family, your community is probably the reason I actually came out of my illness. So I think relationship is very, very important.
How would you say that plays into the medical? You bring medical up, and I'm curious if there's any kind of research on depression and or just the community connection that one has and their heart health.
Oh, a big connection, a lot of scientific proof. And I have a separate talk on depression on our YouTube channel, Healthy Living with Dr. Aajay Shah. And I cannot stress enough about the social or the relationship pillar in terms of many illnesses, including depression, including heart attack. Like I said, loneliness and heart attack has a big, big science. People who are lonely, people who are single, they're very high chance of having heart attack as much as if they are a smoker. Same with depression. I think when it comes down to depression, how you interact with people, how you smile, those things are probably how you talk, how you get support from your loved ones. Those things are probably as important as getting counseling and getting a medication from your doctor. And I think, frankly, doctor you may see for 5 or 10 minutes, a counselor you may see for half an hour, 45 minutes, but counselor truly, in my opinion, is more like a professional coming with certain limitations of how much that counselor can associate with you in an intimate way. And I think many counselors obviously worry about not exposing themselves because of the liability issue, how much close they can get to you. But versus if you have a spouse or a partner you live with, that person can be close to you, that person can tell you anything, that person can get angry on you if necessary, that person can give you hug. I mean, those things don't come from your doctor or from your counselor. So I think relationship and depression, major science. I mean, people who have family, people who are married, they have very less chance of getting depressed.
That being the case, moving into like some of the things that you and I talked about before we, jumped into this, we've been talking about different topics that we thought, might be good topics and that sort of a thing. And motivation being one of those big ones. How does a person pull out of, say, like depression and feeling lonely and even being alone? Because sometimes people just don't have a lot of people around them. How's a person going to get motivated if they don't have that type of a framework, or do they need to pursue that first?
See, that's a excellent question. I think motivation is a very complex subject. I think at the same time, I realized that many times motivation actually is like a bank account. You can have certain amount of motivation when you wake up in the morning, and that motivation as the day go by starts to go down and down, just like bank account starts to go down when you start spending, all the time. So motivation is something you cannot 100% count on. My personal philosophy, my personal strategy is that instead of relying on motivation, create an environment. So how can you create an environment? For example, When I have the most motivation in the morning to do anything to conquer the world, that's when I have to be smart and I have to build certain things in my life so that way when I'm not motivated, those things will come back and continue me going on my track. And that's what creating an environment. In terms of the, for example, creating an environment, the relation. When you are motivated in the morning, or if you are motivated in the weekend or afternoon, take that time and invest into relationship. When you are motivated in the morning, take that time and investment into cleaning out your kitchen of unhealthy things. So I think whenever you are motivated, take that motivated and multiply it by creating an environment. Once you create an environment, once you have made that relationship with your spouse, with your life partner, with your friends, creating that environment of relationship, even when you are not motivated, those relationships will keep giving back to you and keep giving you support. Same way it comes down to motivation with our health. I've said many times, you cannot rely on your willpower, you cannot rely on your motivation. But if our kitchen, the pantry is out of all processed food or out of all animal products, out of all dairy, that even when I'm not motivated to eat healthy, I will have no choice but to eat healthy because all the environment in my kitchen is a healthy environment. So again, I consistently keep telling people that create an environment instead of rely on your willpower or rely on your motivation, because environment will never fail you. Motivation and willpower can fail you because they start to run out as you use them.
That's awesome advice. I couldn't stress it any better myself. And being in the fitness field, motivation is very low many times. But you hit it right on the head. Like there are times in our day that are a little bit higher, and I've noticed that in my own life. I've noticed that even talking to you about your own personal goals and when you're the most motivated and when it comes down and it dips. But you've created those environments in your own life. I've seen that spending time with you, that you've actually lived this out, and that's key. You putting it into words is nice, and I hope the people at home are having an opportunity to really take this in. Free will is a thing that you just brought up, and Sam Harris, a brilliant neurologist or neuroscientist rather, has written an entire book on free will, and he argues the whole idea that we even have it. And whether we do or we don't, it's a compelling argument against having actual free will. And so not depending on your motivation, not depending on your free will to get you there, or, depending on it being there when you actually need it, is brilliant. Having the environment, I love that. So like, how much sleep do we need to wake up and to have this feeling of being at our best, at our peak? Because I know sleep is a big one, and rest is another part of that, and whether or not we get into deep sleep. What kind of science is there for that?
Yeah, I think that's another important pillar, the six pillars. And for our viewers, the six pillars include what we eat, so our nutrition, exercise, how much physically we move. I don't call it exercise, but physical activity, sleep itself, then social relations, which we just covered, substance abuse, including alcohol, and stress management. So sleep is one of the important pillars. And many times we don't appreciate, but we spend 1/3 of our life in sleep. And we take sleep as a granted thing. We always think that sleep will come automatically, but that's not true. Sleep has to be prepared as much as we prepare to go to work, or as much as we prepare to cook healthy thing, or we prepare for exercise. So sleep itself requires some planning. Um, Based on the science, average hours of sleep we need is 7 hours. Some people, fortunately, can sleep a little less and still be healthy. Some people may need 9 hours, 8 hours, but average hours is about 7 hours. There's enough proof that people who need 7 hours of sleep, if they sleep less than 5 hours, not only they die prematurely, but they also are obese. They also have very high chance of heart disease, dementia. People who sleep less than 5 hours, even in the short duration, when they don't sleep for 2 days or 3 days, for 7 hours, if they sleep less than 5 hours, their appetite goes up. They actually have a craving for a lot of unhealthy carb. They're craving for alcohol. So even just short duration of missing 2-3 hours of sleep makes you unhealthy. And if you have a consistently less than 5 hours of sleep, it's just very detrimental. So again, at the same time, I would say 2 out of 1,000 people can get away with sleeping 5 hours. But for average person like myself and probably for Mike, I think we need 7 hours of sleep. So when it comes down to the sleep, sleep is itself a science. There are textbooks written on science. There is a whole medical field devoted to sleep. There are sleep specialists, there are sleep physicians who spend 2-3 years of training how to deal with the sleep. So sleep is itself is a big science. So we cannot justify talking about sleep in a few minutes. But I will tell you what I feel personally everyone should know about the sleep. So again, sleeping 7 hours, very important. Sleeping less than 5 hours, definitely very detrimental. When it comes down to sleep, you have to know how your sleep was the night before. And there are a lot of tools you can track now, and they're very cost effective. For example, Fitbit is a very simple device. You can buy it for anywhere from $60 to $80, wear it on your wrist every night, and in the morning when you wake up, it will give you a detailed analysis of how your sleep was. So what do you mean by how your sleep was? Sleep has many stages. To just briefly cover, sleep can be light sleep, sleep can be deep sleep, and sleep can be REM sleep. All stages are very important. Getting into deep sleep is as important as getting into REM sleep. REM sleep is the one when we dream and our eyes are moving. So all those stages are important. And Fitbit type device, there are many other devices, including the Whoop device, Aura device, many other Apple Watch, many other devices can give you sleep analysis. And looking at the sleep analysis, when you wake up in the morning for 15-30 seconds to see how your sleep was is very important. I've been tracking my sleep for the last 5 years, and I consistently have noticed that if I had a stressful day the day before, if I had a few alcoholic drinks, if I did not exercise, if I had a heavy meal late night, like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, my Fitbit is telling me next morning that my sleep quality was not as good if I did not do those things. So those devices will give you feedback and may give you some essentially like a biofeedback based on your behavior and how your sleep was. So you can correct the behavior and your sleep will improve. Definitely in terms of eating late night meals like 10 o'clock at night, my sleep consistently has been a factor. Sometimes we also can measure resting heart rate during the sleep. So during the sleep, as we all know, heart rate drops because we are not active, we are sleeping, except in the REM sleep. But typically resting heart rate is very low. But whenever I had a heavy meal late night, 10 o'clock at night, my resting heart rate throughout the night many times was in 60s, 70s, and 80s. Typically, my resting heart rate during sleep is in 40s and 50s. So I know that my resting heart rate was higher 20, 30 points because I had a late night heavy meal, because my body was busy digesting that food, my insulin level was high, and I wasn't giving my body rest. So some of these feedbacks are very instant. So how can you improve sleep? You can do many things. I have a separate video on how you can improve sleep on YouTube, but let me tell you some simple things you can do. Number one, have a consistent schedule. That means if you go to sleep at 10 o'clock at night, try to go 7 days, at least 6 days a week, 10 o'clock at night. Same way, wake up consistently in the morning, 6:30, 6 o'clock, whenever you wake up. But try to maintain a fixed sleep schedule as much as possible, number one. Number two, expose yourself to some kind of sunlight in the morning for 30 minutes to 1 hour. We know that people who expose themselves to sunlight in the morning, they have this circadian cycle. The melatonin level rises at night when the sun starts to go away, and they will have a better sleep. Number three, eliminate as much blue light as possible by 7 or 8 o'clock at night. That means less iPhones and less Android phones, less iPads, less even watching TV. Essentially have a ritual that an hour before you sleep, you will try to avoid all the blue light emitting device as much as possible, because we know those blue light affects our melatonin levels and will not make you have a good sleep. Sometimes you can wear those orange tinted glasses, and that will block some of the blue light. But the best thing is to avoid the blue light emitting devices as much as possible. Make your bedroom as dark as possible. Make your bedroom as noise free as possible. Take a hot shower at night, because when you take a hot shower, your core body temperature drops, and actually that makes you sleep quicker and makes you sleep deeper sleep better. Um, uh, Use your bedroom only for sleep. So not have a TV in the bedroom. Like I said, TV watching just before you go to sleep, you're not going to have a good deep sleep. Avoid heavy meals at night, particularly 2-3 hours before you go to sleep. Like I said, my sleep consistently gets affected whenever I have a late meal at a party, when I have somebody's house. Don't use alcohol as a sleeping aid. You may fall asleep after having few drinks of alcohol, but that sleep will be very, very poor quality sleep, and your REM sleep will be definitely big time affected. So don't use alcohol as a sleeping aid. Also, avoid sleeping pills as much as possible. We know now the sleeping pills actually increases your chance of dying over years if you take consistent sleeping pills. Sleeping pills also can cause many mental illness, including depression, even some of the bipolar disorder. So sleeping pill definitely is a no-no. And if you have a like a few days of stressful days coming up, I understand you may take 1 or 2 days of sleeping pill, but taking sleeping pills every day for months and years is just not healthy. Also, exercising during the daytime also increase your chance of good sleep, but not exercise too close to the sleep. Maybe not for 2 or 3 hours before the sleep. Regular walking even will improve your sleep. So there are many ways you can improve your sleep. I just listed some of them. Like I said, there's a whole science on how to improve sleep, and you can Google it, you can watch my YouTube video. But sleep is very important pillar. Whenever I had a poor sleep, whenever I had many calls because I was on a call, next day I have paid a big price. So I ask all of our viewers, including myself and you, that we have to treat sleep as important as what we eat, what we exercise, our stress management, our relationship. And again, prepare for sleep, plan for sleep. Don't take sleep granted.
I actually have epilepsy. You know that about me. I've had it for my entire life, actually, since I was a baby. So it's something that coming through that, I actually have seen the impact of sleep. And if I'm not sleeping on a regular basis, that's why I asked the question, because most of the population doesn't have epilepsy. There's millions that do, but it's something that it's a small sliver of the population that actually has it. But I have an immediate feedback. If I have, several days without sleep, I'll end up having some activity going on. And so it's really, really important to the brain. And I feel like lagging in my body and those types of things. But, my brain definitely tells me you got to get some sleep. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. And that's one of those things that's kind of a benefit of having epilepsy, is that it kind of forces you into a healthy lifestyle. You've asked me in my past how I keep some things in line, and it's almost like I have to, otherwise there's a real impact on me that not necessarily everyone experiences. So it definitely helps. But epilepsy and the sleep is a huge correlation there between being able to operate and manage your days without having any kind of epileptic activity and having that 7 hours of sleep. So I do notice that 7 hours is a great number. You go a little bit more, it's all right, but then you start to get a little bit too much sleep. And if you get too little, then you start to have that brain activity coming up, and that hyperactivity turns into seizures. And so that's absolutely something that I notice in my life. But with the everyday person, it seems like they can stretch that and force that a little too long. But then you mentioned sleeping aids and sleeping pills. Melatonin, what do you think about that? Is that
I think
aid that you're talking about, or is that something that's...
No, I think for example, melatonin. Melatonin is good for short duration, like if you had a jet lag or something like that. But taking everyday melatonin has a no value, because your body will start making less melatonin. So melatonin in general is not recommended to take every day. For example, if I fly out to London or to India, and if I have a jet lag, if I want to initiate my sleep a little early because I'm in India now, then I can take the melatonin and my sleep will be initiated and I will break my jet lag quicker if I do that. So melatonin has a role in terms of breaking the jet lag, but melatonin has no role in terms of taking it every day. I also agree that sleep and epilepsy. I think like many times when we want to diagnose epilepsy, we actually sleep deprived people, and epilepsy comes out. So I think people have to realize that if sleep was not important, the evolution would have eliminated the sleep, because sleep is one of the worst thing for human, for any animal, because during the sleep we are most up for predation, because during the sleep, if we are sleeping in a jungle, a lion can come and kill us. So sleep, we should not be sleeping, and we'll be killed. During the sleep we don't exercise. During the sleep we don't eat. During the sleep we don't reproduce. So technically sleep is like one of the least beneficial thing to human. On the first hand you would think. So evolution would have eliminated the sleep, but evolution has not. Matter of fact, every animal, even worms, even bacteria, have sleep cycle built in them. So evolution has maintained the sleep cycle because evolution knows it's one of the most important thing for our liveliness, for our health. And that's the reason I always said that do not take sleep granted. Sometimes you will feel like I have an important project coming up, or I have a new job, or I have a new exam coming up, or I want to achieve certain goals in life, and I will sleep 2-3 hours for less for 2-3 months. But that's just not going to work. Your productivity will be so low that you will actually miss those productivity hours because you're not sleeping. So I think I cannot emphasize sleep enough. Sleep is very, very important.
That's really good advice, because I think a lot of people, they see these YouTube videos and they get excited about, a Jeff Bezos or seeing an Elon Musk, and they're like super excited about being overly productive and being able to move up to someone else's level of productivity. But ultimately, when you're sacrificing the sleep like that, so many times you run into hitting that wall. And it's nice to hear, someone who's very productive themselves and very, very successful in many areas of your life, say that, because being able to be successful and have 7 hours of sleep built into your life is something that's hard to imagine if you're at the bottom of that totem pole of success. So it's nice to hear that from you. What's the best way to eat in terms of keeping the energy levels up after you've gotten that good 7 hours of sleep? What then do we do in terms of you've created the environment, you've gotten rid of all the junk food, but what does actually remain in your pantry and in your refrigerator after you've gotten rid of everything that's bad? Because everything we hear is like everything's so horrible out there. What really is okay to leave in your refrigerator if you want to be the most productive and the healthiest?
Yeah, I think again that's an important question. And what we eat is also an important pillar. And what I have personally experienced now for the last 5 years, I've been a lifelong vegetarian. So, I always was blessed to have some good environment for my parents to have being a lifelong vegetarian. So I always had dairy when I was growing up, but I never had meat. I never had a beef or chicken or fish, anything like that when I was growing up. So I was fortunate to have those foundations from the beginning. But now I'm vegan for the last 3 to 4 years. And I realized that all animal products carry risk. And I know, Mike, you are vegan vegetarian also. And we will cover the risk of animal products in a separate live, but all animal products carry more risk, a certain risk compared to being vegan or vegetarian. There's a study from Seventh-day Adventist people in Loma Linda, California. In that, Seventh-day Adventist people are a very interesting group of people. They are very, very, very religious. They're very committed to their religion, committed to their preaching of what they're learning from the religion. And some of the Seventh-day Adventist people are actually vegan, and they are true vegan. We'll talk about what true vegan are. Some of them are vegetarian, some of them are pescatarian, and they eat fish. Some of them are ovo, that means they eat eggs. Some of them are omnivores, so they eat all kind of meat. And when they analyze all the Seventh-day Adventist people, because the other qualities are same. That means they don't smoke. Most of them don't smoke. Most of them don't drink alcohol. Most of them have a same social relationship. They all go to church once or twice a week or more sometime. So other aspects are similar in this group except what they eat. And when they analyze, keeping other aspects of Seventh-day Adventist people same, and only the difference between what they eat, what the results found that when Seventh-day Adventist people were vegan, that means they were eating mostly whole food, plant-based, no oil diet. When they were vegan, they actually were leaner. Their body mass index was only 22. There are less chance of diabetes. There are less chance of heart disease. They actually live 5 to 10 years longer than Seventh-day Adventist people who ate all different kind of meat. So again, this group of people is a perfect way of analyzing, because keeping everything else constant and only variable being what they ate proved that being vegan, being whole food, plant-based person has definitely a lot of benefits. I've read and I've studied and I've watched and I'll tell you in a second, I actually read many textbooks on whole food, plant-based being vegan, because vegan can be also very, very unhealthy. Eating Oreos is vegan. Drinking Pepsi or drinking Coke is vegan. You know, there are a lot of vegan ice creams available. There are even a lot of vegan meat substitute burgers available. So those are not truly a healthy way of being vegan. Those things will help the environment. Those things will eliminate the animal cruelty, but those things will not give you the good health. For good health, you need to be whole food, plant-based, no oil diet. What does it mean? It means eating the vegan items which are as close to wholeness as possible. That means how they came out from the ground, how they came out from the nature. That means eating those vegetables in a raw form, or eating those vegetables with water-based cooking or vegetable broth-based cooking, eating those beans, legumes, and lentils, obviously thoroughly cooked legumes, beans, and lentils, having intact grains. That means not processed grains like white rice, but having brown rice, black rice, quinoa, oat groats. So having intact grains, and obviously having 3 to 5 servings of fruits. That means that means being whole food, plant-based person. Also, oil. Oil is one of the most processed vegan item one can ever find. Even olive oil is not healthy for you in general. I know 1 tablespoon of olive oil per day, which is salad, can be healthy, and there are some data to it. But in general, those vegetable oils should be avoided as much as possible. And every processed item has oil in it. So when you look at any bag of chips or any cookies or crackers or donut, anything, they all have vegetable oil or they all have some kind of oil in it. And oil should be avoided as much as possible. So again, whole food, plant-based, that means eating as close to the nature made, and cooking is fine, but not very high temperature cooking. We'll talk about that also. So low to medium temperature cooking, whole food, plant-based, no oil would be the best way to live a healthy, long life. And there are a lot of blue zones. Blue zones are the zones where people live 100, people live healthy, people live happy. This blue zone concept was given by Dan Buettner, I think around 2002, where he surveyed a lot of locations in the world where people naturally live very long. And there are 5 blue zones he defined. One of the blue zone is Loma Linda, California, where the Seventh-day Adventist vegan people live. Other blue zones include Okinawa, Japan. Other blue zones include Sardinia, Italy, Nicoya Peninsula and Costa Rica, and Icaria, Greece. So there are 5 blue zones in the world. And in these blue zones, people live naturally long, they are happy, and they're healthy. And they actually practice all 6 pillars by nature. And the reason I want to mention the blue zone, because in these blue zones, they are mostly plant predominant. They are not 100% vegan like I am or you are, but they are definitely plant predominant. So 90% of the calorie come from plant-based food. They do have some dairy at times, they do have some cheese, they do have some animal products, but though they take those animal products as a condiment or there's an extremely small amount of treat, many times once a week, many times once or twice a month. They don't take three times a week like Americans do, where they have bacon in the morning, chicken sandwich at lunch, and fish or a big thing in the evening. Americans eat too much animal products, and partly that's been brainwashed that we need animal products to be strong. But the animals which are strong, they don't eat meat. Look at the elephants, look at the gorilla, look at the chimpanzees. The animals which live the longest, like tortoise, they don't eat meat. So again, meat is not required to be healthy. It's been marketing hype that we need meat for protein, we need meat for strength. Those things are not necessary. Actually, there's a whole documentary, Game Changer, where there are athletes who are plant-based athletes, and they are doing better than many athletes who are carnivore. Matter of fact, the tennis champion is now what's his name, Djokovic, who is actually plant-based, and he is now tied with Roger Federer and Nadal to be equal Grand Slam victories. He has 20 victories, and he's an Olympic eating the plant-based food right now, and he is favored to win the Olympic gold medal. So you don't need necessarily meat, you don't need beef, you don't need those whey protein powders to be athletically fit. You can be fit, you can be healthy, you can live long if you are whole food plant-based.
Sure. Well, what do you recommend then? I myself, I'm not vegan. I'm vegetarian, and most of the time I have everything except animal products. The few exceptions that I do have is the whey protein that you just mentioned. I don't drink it as a whole supplement. I actually have that in my coffee as creamer, believe it or not. It's something that it's in the cartons, and it's just already pre-mixed, and I pour that into my coffee as a source of creamer. So I guess my question is, because coffee is such a huge thing that people drink, nearly every day. Probably some people, and most people that do drink coffee drink it every day. So what would you say, putting something into your coffee, is that okay, or is that something that should be changed to something else? Is there's something else that's better for
I think, again, I think when it comes down to protein is a whole science. Number one, we as Americans, we are eating a lot more protein than what's necessary, both animal protein and plant protein. So that way, we need to cut down on number of grams protein we are eating. I mean, that needs to be done, number one. Number two, when it comes down to the type of protein, plant protein is preferred compared to animal protein, because animal protein can stimulate this pathway called IGF-1 pathway, and also can stimulate mTOR pathway. Both pathways actually are needed for good health, but when they are overstimulated, they actually predispose you to having pre-cancer and cancer. So we don't need to stimulate those pathways too much, and that's where animal protein comes in. So if you have a small amount of whey protein, it's okay, as long as you're not having 200-300 grams of animal protein.
Right.
But the preferred would be a plant-based protein. Plant-based protein is more forgiving than animal-based protein.
It's good.
I personally also have once in a while whey protein powder, which is okay. And I think many times plant-based community looks at the whey protein powder in a negative way, but that's not necessarily based on science. I think it's based on their emotions. So if you have for example, for my size, if I have 60 to 70 grams of protein max, or 80 grams of protein max, because I'm physically very active, I lift every day, I run every day, so I need slightly more protein being athletic compared to somebody who's sedentary. So let's say I need 80 grams of protein. Out of 80 grams, if 10 to 20 grams of protein comes from animal products, I think I will be safe based on observational studies and based even on some of the scientific studies, because we all need IGF-1 stimulation. IGF-1 level has IGF-1. Yeah, IGF-1 is an insulin-like growth factor. And it behaves like a growth hormone, and it behaves like an insulin. So it essentially is required to maintain your muscle mass, maintain your brain health, maintain your overall all the bodily functions. So IGF-1 has a role and has a value. So IGF-1 actually has a sweet spot. It's almost like a J-shaped curve or U-shaped curve, where if you have too low IGF-1, you are in trouble because you will lose your muscle mass and you will lose your brain function. You will have Alzheimer's disease. So too low IGF-1 is not healthy. Too high IGF-1 is not healthy also because it makes you have more pre-cancer and cancer. So for IGF-1, we need a sweet spot. So Americans, IGF-1 is about 250 average, and recommended number is IGF-1 anywhere about 80 to 100, 80 to 100. So
Sure.
my IGF-1 is, for example, 110, 120. So I'm on the low end side, and I want to keep it that way.
Sure.
The reason I explain about all this IGF-1, because if you take, let's see, if I take 80 gram of protein, and if I have a 10 to 20 gram of animal-based protein, like a whey powder, or once in a while dairy if necessary, whatever, or cheese or whatever, or cottage cheese, if I have a small amount of animal protein, my IGF-1 will be from 110 to maybe 120, and I'm still within the sweet spot. I don't want my IGF-1 level to go too low because that's also detrimental. So as I get older, to be frank with you, I'm planning to add maybe 10 to 20 gram of animal-based protein, probably in the form of whey protein or whey powder or whey protein shakes, because I'm much more used to having those instead of eating animal meat or chicken, because my tastes have never developed for meat or chicken or fish. But I still want to get very small amount of animal protein, and that's where I get whey powder and that. But again, I'm still exploring what the true science is. I don't think there are studies done where we know that zero animal protein is the best way to go. There are a lot of people say based on their emotions, based on their belief, but truly based on science, I cannot say that animal protein small amount is bad for you. Even in blue zones, people eat 10% of the calorie from animal products. So I think the reason I explain all this thing is because many people, many Americans, they say that, but I love my fish once in a while. I love my chicken once in a while. I love my dairy once in a while. And that would be 100% okay if it's once in a while, not 3 times a day.
Sure. So health-wise, that's what we're talking about here, as far as how okay or not okay it is for the vegans out there. I'm sure that they're cringing right now. Oh my gosh, don't say that. But I think that it's important to say, because there's so many people, and if we're going to come together as two communities, that one says no meat, no, because it's horrible for the animals. I totally understand that. I'm vegetarian myself. I used to eat meat all the time. My plate was full. Even Amish, with with your son Amish, we would go out to Mongolian barbecue, and I'd fill my plate full of meat, and I was the worst person with regard to being a vegetarian. And now flip a decade later, and I'm a vegetarian, and I'm not eating any meat at all. So but my little bit in my coffee, for instance, that was a question of mine, because it is something that I have in my coffee as just a little bit of whey as creamer, and it sweetens it and it creams it. I don't like black coffee. It's too stringent for my taste. But having coffee with that in it, it really serves my needs, and it seems to have, some vitamins and minerals, of course, along with the whey mix that it is, and then the little bit of protein as well. So I'm not just throwing something like soy milk with no real benefits to it, except that it's going to make it taste a little bit better. So yeah, that's something that I was curious about, how you felt about that. So a little bit of animal products, and for those vegans out there, try not to harm an animal in the process if possible, because that's ultimately something that we do want to be aware of as well.
Yeah, I think sometimes, Mike, I highly respect vegetarian, because in India, when I was growing up, definitely a few hundred years ago, cow was considered like the mother for us, like cow mother. We consider cow as a mother, and that's the reason Hindus don't eat beef ever. Ramesh doesn't eat beef at all. So point is, cow was considered our mother. So cow was treated very sacredly, and cow milk and cow milk products were treated as a treat. So I think sometimes, again, like I said, science is not decided yet. So maybe a happy balance to have very small amount of animal product in your diet, very small amount,
Right.
without harming the animals,
Right.
without doing those factory farming and factory milk production. If a family has their own cow and treats the cow like mother and has a very small amount of milk every day or a few times a week, I think again science is not decided whether that's a wrong thing or not. I
Sure.
think and again I'm vegan myself, so I'm not going to say that I don't follow that. But at the same time, I think if an American asks me that if I want to have small amount of cheese once or twice a week, is it okay? I say based on science, it's okay. I cannot say no to it. I'm personally vegan myself, and I think like those Seventh-day Adventist people, vegan, they do better. I think the reason many times we get in trouble is because it's the amount of animal products we have in our diet. A lot of my patients, their plate, 80% of the plate will be full of animal product, and they will have 20% from the plant-based food. That's really the problem, not the animal product itself.
And that answers a lot of questions and kind of brings two communities together, because I think that's really what we need to do, is be able to have this conversation, because we have a lot of communities that are all about animal products, and a lot of communities that are coming forward as we don't want to hurt a single animal on the planet, and then some in the middle. And it's hard to be a part of the conversation and speak your mind and actually come to some kind of consensus if we're aggressive toward one another, or we're like, no, you're totally wrong, and no, you're totally wrong. It's like the Democrats and Republicans fighting it out. It's that we're trying to fight the same battle. We're all in this together. We're all trying to figure it out. And I love that you're a physician that's willing to say the science is not necessarily all in, and so we're working this out and learning these things as we go together. I think that's an incredible sign of humility and wisdom all in one sentence. That I love that you're willing to come forward and talk in this way. I think it'll bring a lot of people together and give a lot of people the opportunity to be able to have a conversation about it and say, okay, I really see your point, and maybe I'll come a little bit to your side, and them see their point, and maybe a little bit to their side. Maybe we can figure out what the best thing is for everyone in the process, because I think there is a place that we can find to be true and real, but we can't do it arguing and fighting about it and saying, you're stupid, you're wrong, you're just beating each other up and berating one another. Doesn't get us anywhere. And I love your process of actually acknowledging both sides and understanding that we're still learning as an entire civilization across an entire world of different societies and different cultures, still coming together and learning what they're all about.
I think I like I said, I'm personally vegan myself, and I do it because that's what my taste buds are made for, and I have Jayshree can make, and I sometimes can make thousands of dishes from plants, and I think so. I'm happy with being vegan, but at the same time, I think plus, to be honest with you, Mike, I think I want people to come closer and closer to the healthiest diet possible. And maybe one day science will tell us that being whole food, plant-based, no oil is the best way to go. Maybe one day science will tell us. And maybe that day whole world will and should be whole food, plant-based, no oil. But there are a lot of like Blue Zone is a prime example. Blue Zone people are not vegan. Blue Zone people have 10% calories from animal products. But their animal products are many times like cruelty-free. They are not factory farm. They are not based on a lot of the corn-based meal for the animals. They are not in a big slaughterhouse. I mean, they have like a they're a lot more dairy than animal products. So I think again, but at the same time, I don't want to sound like I don't recommend 100% being vegan. I mean, I'm myself vegan. I ask people to go whole food, plant-based, no oil vegan as much as possible. But many of our friends, many of our followers, many of our viewers, they're actually at other extreme right now. If they come halfway, we'll be doing a major justice to environment, major justice to animal cruelty, and major justice to the health. I think and one day when the science says the whole food plant-based, no oil, then I will have the biggest horn to start, trumping that that's the best way to go. Until then, I'm going to be very practical, very inclusive, and very accommodating, and very fair to the people who says where is the science.
I love that. Just one last question. I know that I mean, we've held you here for a very long time, and we appreciate you sharing all this information. But for the people that would like to actually spend a little time working on and their environment as a part of that, and moving in the direction of having a little bit more vegetarian inclusiveness in their diet, you mentioned a little while ago the meats or the foods that were like meats, maybe soy products and the sausages and the eggs that are no eggs, eggs and those types of things. Would you recommend something like that for a person who's all meat or 80%, like you said, on their plate meat, transitioning that way over to the vegetarian side? It's not whole food plant-based where it's straight from the ground necessarily, but would that be a good first step? How would one, actually move forward? Is that possible?
Absolutely. I think those are great transition food, and I highly recommend that actually. I think people who are eating beef burger, if they go to the Impossible Burger or Beyond Burger, that would be 100% fine. And those transition food are healthier. Those transitional food don't have animal protein. Those transition food are good for environment. There is no animal cruelty, and those are very cost effective. So those transition foods are fine. But the best part is that those are transition food which you can transition to the next level, which you can start making your own burgers at home. My wife has a great recipe on making bean burgers at home, and it's already on our YouTube channel. And you can make a great bean burgers within an hour or two, and you can store them. You can keep in your freezer for 1 week, and you can have a homemade bean burger 3-4 times a week. And that would be the best way to be whole food plant-based and still have a taste of that burger, the chewiness of the burger. But I agree with you that if you are in that transition and if you are still learning to cook and if you don't have time, those beyond meat or those kind of burgers will be fine as you are going from one meat-based product to the plant-based products.
That's wonderful. That's good. I mean, I think that's great to hear, because I think it's a huge step. You see something like Food Inc., the documentary many years ago, where they're pushing this animal into being slaughtered, and it changes you. It really impacts you, and it makes you want to change. But then where do you start? Having that as an opportunity to be able to move toward those types of foods, to start supplementing your plate and transitioning from eating, those cows that are suffering horribly, into actually eating meat or eat meat-like foods that are plant-based. That's really helpful. But tell me the truth, those burgers that you make yourself, how do they taste? Are they okay? Because a lot
They're
of people.
great. I think people should watch that video on our YouTube channel. It's just Healthy Living with Dr. Aajay Shah. Those burger, I never had a beef burger in my life, so I cannot say that whether they taste like a beef burger or not. But to me, they taste very good. I had Impossible Burger one time, and people say it comes close to the beef burger. So I know how Impossible Burger tastes. And the burger my wife made at home was very close to Impossible Burger, the same chewiness, the same consistency, almost same taste, no salt, and those, so to me, if she can make a burger like Impossible Burger, that probably is very close to the real beef burger.
Absolutely. I'll put the link in down below. Is that sound good to you?
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah.
I'll find the link. I'll put it down below for everyone, and I'll actually make it myself and try it myself, because I years and years ago now was a meat eater, and so I know what the meat tastes like. I also know what the actual artificial meats taste like, and we'll do a comparison. I'll make some up, and we'll see if we can't compare the two, and then give that as an opportunity for people to be able to, those that want to do some cooking can try stepping into it that way. And then maybe we can come up with some other recipes for Jay Cherie. Potentially either she has some, or she can offer up some more on video for us, because that would be really helpful, because I think that's a huge part of this whole equation of moving from eating a lot of meat to having none, is the fear that you're going to have to be eating salads alone. And if you're eating just salads, that is just, it's a very hard thing to make that transition. And so that sounds great. We're running on like an hour now, and we're only meant to be going for a half hour, but the conversation with you, I love it. And so it's a lot of fun to be able to spend this time with you. And I hope everyone at home is having the same experience as well. We will throw this video up online. What else would you like to share with everyone before we head out?
No, I think, Mike, one thing I must stress, and I tell Jayshree, I tell myself, I tell you, and I know you've been telling me also for the last 20 years, that self-care is very important. So I want to leave today with all of our viewers and all of our followers, and you and me and Jayshree, my wife, and Vanessa, that take care of yourself, because self-care, I cannot stress enough, self-care is so important. You have to treat your body like a temple. You are one of the greatest creation from God. You have to take care of it as if it's a temple. You have to nurture it. You have to exercise it. You have to sleep. You have to have all the 6 pillars. So self-care is very important. And we will talk more every time we talk about something about self-care. And today's self-care message to you is sleep better tonight. Go to sleep on time. Don't stay up late watching Netflix. Go to sleep around 9:30, 10 o'clock, and catch up on the 7 hours of sleep.
That means no texting about your goals tonight too.
Yeah.
You're always working hard, always doing that, but you do end up getting to bed about that 9:45, 10 o'clock time. So I'm proud of all that you're doing in your personal life. You've really been working hard and doing a lot of great things. You have a marathon coming up, right? So maybe you should announce everybody.
Well, next time we can talk about how I'm preparing for the marathon.
Okay, this sounds wonderful. I think people would love to hear that, and love to hear that their doctor is someone who's engaging in life in that way, because it's all about life experiences, right?
I also want to talk a little bit about Mike, about you. I think as our viewers are starting to get to know you, and which is one of the best things happened to our page, that you came on board. And I think you're going to lead so many thousands and thousands, millions of people eventually, that I'm so happy that you are joining our movement, joining our page, and helping me and helping thousands of people. But let me ask you, if people want to reach out to you for help, for their questions, for if they want to be client of yours, and they want to learn from you more, how can they do that?
Well, the page, Healthy Living with Dr. Aajay Shah, I'm on there all the time. We're working together very closely, so I'll be on that quite a bit. My own page, New Life with Mike Trainer, that's at Facebook, and then newlifewithmiketrainer.com. Also, they can come to either one of those, and I respond to all questions, all comments, answer anything that you have. And if you are looking to start to exercise and would like to do something on a one-to-one basis, I have that as an option as well. But there's plenty before that costs nothing at all, and I am more than interested in helping everyone find that happiness and health, just as you are, Dr. Shah.
Yep, that's good. All right, Mike. I think we had a great hour today. We covered a lot of topics.
Wonderful.
All right.
I'm so